So we're just a shade early, but I'll call the meeting to order at 9:29. And ask for adoption of the agenda. Before I do that though, is there anything to add from admin?
No, you're
Okay. No council have anything to add? I have a motion, thanks.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion on the table, call a question, all in favor? And that's carried, thanks. Minutes from the regular council meeting of June 8th. Anybody see anything out of order there?
I'll move the minutes to June 8th, 2022 as circulated.
Motion on the floor, all in favor? And that's carried, thanks. Okay, we're a little bit ahead of our public hearing time. Do we want to bounce a bit?
Your worship, just a reminder, you can't deal with 8.2 until you have your public hearing. That's the only.
Okay,
We can go to 8.
could we do the bylaw, 5.1? So we'll move to item 5.1, the bylaw 590-22 Enforcement Review Committee. And I'll turn it over to Joan to introduce the topic. Sorry, yeah.
Nope. Good morning, acting good evening, council. What I have in front of you today is a bylaw called Enforcement Review Committee. Under the Municipal Government Act, council can establish a committee through section 145 of the MGA. In order to do that, we must pass a bylaw to do so. So currently, Woodlands County designated officers are development officers as well as our peace officers. We have the authority under the Land Use Bylaw, the Municipal Government Act, and our Community Standards Bylaw to issue orders, whether that be stop orders, cleanup orders, enforcement, whatever it may be. If an order is issued under the MGA, there's a couple sections. Section 545, which is bylaw contraventions, and or 546, which is remedy of dangerous and unsightly properties. So the peace officer has been working with the development department, and they will assist us in issuing those orders. In particular, when an order is issued, the person that's been issued it does have the opportunity to appeal it. Currently, those appeals would go to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. However, in discussions with our peace officer, we something that he had mentioned was that it's maybe better to have a separate board that reviews those, just specifically the orders that are issued. Just keeps it clean for the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board so that they don't end up perhaps hearing a development appeal as well as an order on it. So then they're almost biased if they're hearing both of them. So just putting forth the recommendation to perhaps look at a bylaw like that. Peace Officer Chom is here today to answer any questions that council might have and how it's worked for Lac St. Anne in particular.
Sure, turn over.
Your worship and council, the reason why I recommended this is the SDAB board is made up of people outside the county or you know, it costs a lot of money to bring these people in to have this hearing. With the number of unsightly properties under the 545 Municipal Government Act or 546, dangerous properties, it seems pretty expensive for them to come in to have an SDAB meeting to, I guess, look at the order, because it's all really they can do is look at the order, extend the time frame that the order is given them, maybe make some adjustments that way, but they cannot cancel the order and say we're not doing it. So by having an enforcement review board, it's made out of 3 members of council, and it's very simple. It's basically part of council's duties at that point to come in when we do have an appeal and sit down and hear the ratepayers, I guess, argument of why they don't want to do what we tell them to do. It's more cost efficient for you guys, and it's a lot quicker process.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Councilor Wilhelm?
How often has a committee in Lac-Saint-Anne met with on these types of topics? Or issues, I guess.
So the way an order would work is you would give them 30 days to remedy the property. They have 14 days to appeal the order by written notice to the county itself. Once a written notice is in play, that's when we engage the Enforcement Review Board, set a date, and they come. How often we use it is quite a bit. It all depends on what kind of enforcements we're doing. Prime example, Lac-Saint-Anne County, we do a lot of unsightly property orders to remedy it. We use our Enforcement Review Board. So it does happen quite often. Since we've taken over, I guess, Woodlands County as a contracted service, we have done one which was a major cleanup in Blue Ridge. Of course, they didn't appeal it, so we didn't need to go that far with it. But the more and more we're looking at it, especially I guess the issue brought forward to me here a week ago, I'm sure we are going to get an appeal on that one. And this would be the best way to, I guess, hit it straight on.
That answers your question. Councilor Koken?
Yeah, through the chair to Joan. So my understanding of this is that if you issue an enforcement order, they have so much time to appeal it. So and then there's an enforcement action taken.
Correct.
And so does that help streamline what you do as a development officer as well?
Yes, it would. When it goes to the FDAB, we generally have also a solicitor sit with the board when they hear it. So it's quite expensive to go the SDAB route. And as well, there's significant reporting that needs to go to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board in order for them to review the item. This would be significantly more streamlined. It would be, just calling 3 council members forward to review the order, and it's either kind of a yes or a no. And you can also amend, I think, what we've outlined too in the order.
Sorry, I didn't get your first name or your name.
I'll introduce myself.
Yeah.
I'm Peace Officer Dallas Choma with Lac-Saint-Anne County. I am the sergeant for Lac-Saint-Anne County.
Okay. You had a comment?
I mean, with the MGA, by right, when we submit an order, except for a 546 order, which is a dangerous, I guess, property order, or, something's going on where it becomes a danger to the public, we can remedy the problem immediately, but normally it's a shorter time period for them to appeal what we want them to do, where it is 7 days. According to the Municipal Government Act for 545, which is a standard order out there, it's 14 days to appeal it, so that is it. If they're after the 14 days, we move forward. It doesn't state that we're gonna go in there and clean it up right away. Usually we give them sufficient amount of time to clean it up, which is normally 30 days to remedy the problem. It depends how big the project is. And then we move forward from there. Will it speed it up? 100% it will speed it up by having a committee set forth with council instead of trying to book all these extra members to come in from the SDAB. The nice thing about it, it's all in-house. You guys are then aware of what is taking place in the county in the sense of cleanups or what the county is trying to achieve with development issues. And it's all in-house at that point, where you guys are all basically briefed on.
Supplementary question to that would be, is there, should there be some training for us that, or those of us who would possibly sit on that review committee to understand better what, our decision-making process?
So is there training? I mean, again, you would have to look under the sections of 545 and 546 of the Municipal Government Act and what is allowed and what should be on an order. I mean, it's fairly simple in the sense of what is needed to be on the order. It's plain black and white in the MGA of what we have to do. Where it comes difficult for you guys in a sense is making a decision, and I mean, with the file coming towards you guys and being presented towards you before, you're not gonna go into this dark. There'll be a file with pictures, there'll be, you know, so you get the clear picture as well as the ratepayer's, I guess, point of view on why he doesn't wanna comply with what our bylaws are or land use is. So it'll be outlined fairly straightforward to you. The only thing that you guys could actually do in an order wise that way would be is to extend the timeline. If there was a mistake made on the order, you know, to say reissue another order. If you think the timeline that development or myself has, or my team has set forward is unreasonable for the size of cleanup or moving the buildings or vice versa, you could extend that timeline because maybe the ratepayer has gone through some problems or issues, maybe can't get the equipment in, maybe due to weather, you could actually extend that timeline for them. Again, anything that is fairly extensive in cleanup, I'm sure will be brought to your attention anyway. Instead of us making that straight decision and spending the county's money.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Kush, that's okay, I'll follow you.
I was gonna start with the recommended action, so you can.
Okay, I did have a question. First of all, yeah, you're flashing, I don't know if that's an alert, but.
No, someone trying to get hold of me.
So my question is, currently, the SDAB board would review any appeals. If we move to this committee structure, I'm just wondering, is there any advantage with the current situation that the committee's not gonna have? I heard you talk about legal counsel there. Can you explain the difference other than the obvious?
I could explain a bit of that, Mr. Chair. First of all, to bring someone in for the SDAB and legal counsel at that point, I think is not what we are really looking for. It costs the county a fair penny to bring an SDAB board in and plus a legal in. Legal's not needed at that point of the appeal because really the SDAB could only overturn or extend, like I said, the order itself. Find a mistake you made and then get you to reissue that order if needed. But the enforcement, they can't say yay or nay on the enforcement at that point. So really the county is spending money that is not needed at that time. A lot of cleanups for Lac Ste. Anne County or the bigger tear downs of houses or structures or vice versa, we're gonna seek legal counsel anyway. And what I mean by that is once the order is expired, they appealed it, they lost the appeal for an extension and they still didn't comply with our order. After that 30 days or 60 days or 90 days that we've granted them to remedy the problem, we then go, if it's a big project like ripping down structures or moving structures, we will then go for a court order. So that is gonna cost the county money at that point. That's when we bring legal involved to get the court order, which, you know, the average court order will cost you $1,500 to $1,700. So to have legal in at the SDAB at that point is, to me, not worth the dollar spent with for.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, I'd entertain that motion.
Yeah, no, want to make a motion, or sorry, the council gives the first reading to bylaw 590/22 enforcement review committee.
Motion on the table, call a question, all in favor? And that's carried. Looking for Councilor Prestige.
Make a motion that council gives second reading to the bylaw 590/22 enforcement review committee.
Motion on the table, all in favor? And that's carried. Now we need a motion to proceed to third and final. Councilor Williams.
I'll make a motion that council proceeds to third and final reading of bylaw 590/22 enforcement review.
I'm just gonna comment on this, please.
Sure.
I'm gonna vote in favor not to go to final reading. In my opinion, I think all members of council should be here when we're passing a new bylaw, so John should have the Rave should have his chance to comment on the bylaw. So I prefer if we didn't move on to the third and final reading today and give a chance for John to have his ability to read and comment on it in council before we pass a new bylaw, for one. And for two, I'd like to talk with Lac Ste. Anne a little bit and the councillors that have been part of this committee and see if they've had any issues and anything we need to address with the bylaw before we pass it.
Any other questions to the motion?
I can withdraw that motion. I agree. I'll withdraw it.
Well, if you can't go to third, like, well,
Yeah, either way, I guess, yeah. Rather than vote it. Okay.
Okay, so the motion's on the table. Any other questions to the motion? Okay, so the motion is to proceed to for third and final reading. All in favor? And that's carried. Looking for,
No, it's not.
Sorry.
1, 2, 3.
You didn't vote.
It has to be unanimous.
Yes.
Right, sorry, procedural error. Okay, so we'll, so that's,
Yes, who's opposed?
so I'm gonna call that question again. All in favor? And opposed? So according to procedure, then this will just come back to the next meeting.
Yeah, July 20th meeting, yeah.
Okay. And we just leave it that way then.
Yep.
All right, 9:45, we're ready for our public hearing. So that's item 4.1. And when Joan's ready, we'll turn that over to Joe.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have a public hearing this morning for development permit 15-23-2022. It's on part of Southeast 26, 5910, west of the 5th. Plan 162-1681, Block 1, Lot 1. The development permit is for a new 24 by 30 addition to an existing shop. Renewing development permit 1509-2021 to continue the use of a home occupation, heavy and light duty equipment vehicle repair and inspection, along with a sign. Storage compound, there are as-built 5 accessory structures, 4 garden sheds varying sizes, and 1 10 by 48 shed on skids, an as-built surveillance suite in the shop, and then existing that has been there for several years as well, a home occupation major grader business, and there's 5 graders and support vehicles on the property. Council recently changed the districting on this parcel to direct control district, which essentially gives council control over the existing use and any future development and uses to ensure alignment with the long-term goal of Hamlet residential identified in the outline plan and municipal development plan. I've attached for council's information a development officer's report outlining the pertinent sections of the land use bylaw and community standards bylaw. The report also outlines the proposed conditions for the uses being applied for under the development permit. Administration did advertise the public hearing for 2 consecutive weeks in the local papers, sent letters to adjacent landowners. No written inquiries were received. We did receive 1 phone call just with respect to as to whether there was hours of operation being placed on the permit just due to a noise concern. However, under the community standards bylaw, that could be addressed through the nighttime and noise definitions. Oops. Sorry. Okay, so thank you. On my report there for the development permit. So we've got the definition of an accessory building, what a home occupation major is, heavy equipment and sales definition and repair, storage compound, storage yard, sign, and surveillance suite. And then I've identified sections of the land use bylaw in which we need to refer this out to various departments. Woodlands County Infrastructure Department had no concerns with the existing access to the parcel. They will be required, however, to obtain any road use permits and adhere to seasonal bans. Alberta Transportation, I did speak with her yesterday and she was unable to get us written comments. However, she did indicate, and per what I've attached, very similar comments to what was issued in 2021 when we looked at the home occupation development permit. Essentially, because the proposal is located within 800 meters, if there's any operational concerns with respect to the activities on the property and the access at 658, and or any operational concerns from Woodlands County's standpoint, a traffic impact assessment may be required. That has been addressed through the conditions of the development permit. And then if there's any construction that may be required as a result of that traffic impact assessment, again, that's been addressed through the conditions, it would be at the expense of the developer. And again, I've included sections in the report. Section 48 deals with the commercial industrial standard conditions. Section 66 is general siting requirements. Section 67 is home occupation, definition minor major, and again, the number of uses. Such businesses, there can be more than one per a parcel, and it may generate one or more associated visits per day to the property. Section 78 describes prohibited or restricted goods in the land use bylaw. So essentially, no person shall keep or permit in any designated hamlet, dismantled or wrecked vehicles, any object in which the opinion of the development authority is unsightly. Again, conditions have been addressed to adhere to that section. Section 87 deals with signs. He's got one sign that identifies his business, which does meet our requirements. And then section 106 of the land use bylaw, which is the direct control district that council changed the zoning to, DC1, which the uses that the applicant is applying for does fit within the district. And then we have our community standards bylaw as well, in which would be the concern on the hours of operation, and which again has been addressed through the conditions in the development permit. And the applicant is here if he's got any. Council has any questions.
We'll just go through our procedure, and first of all, I'd ask council if they have any questions or comments. Seeing none, then please, if the applicant has any questions or comments.
Hell of a time hearing here, so.
Oh, sorry.
Basically, she said everything complies.
What was that?
Basically, she said everything complies and council
Okay.
really has no questions.
All right, yeah, okay.
So no comments then? Do you have any comments?
No, I'm pretty satisfied with everything and
Okay.
appreciate getting this thing straightened out so that what I am doing is, what I've been doing for the last 20 years is okay now, so.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good. All right, were there any written or verbal submissions on the proposed development?
No, nothing written, no,
Nothing
just the one phone call.
Okay. And once again, I'll ask council if you have any additional questions relating to the development permit. Okay, seeing none, then I'll declare the public hearing closed. All right, and we'll move on to, so I guess 8.1 was moved then?
You
What's that?
require a motion to postpone, not until the July 20th.
Okay. And so if council heard that, Councilor Swift?
I'll make a motion to postpone the enforcement review committee till July, so what was that?
20th.
July 20th.
Motion on the table. Call the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so 8.2, now this is the development permit for the same
Okay.
thing. I have a question. With, if this was not direct control, would there be a time delay between the public hearing and this development application?
I'm just trying to understand the question. Would there be a time delay for the application or? So typically when there's a land use bylaw amendment, and because this is direct control, which council is the only individuals that make that decision, we typically try to put it on the same agenda, right? So that it's fresh in council's mind. However, you as council have the opportunity to say, no, we need time to consider it. We'll consider it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification then. So once again, I'll turn it back to Joan, but I think it's fresh in everybody's mind.
Okay, yeah, so we've got development permit, what is the number? Sorry. 15, 2023, 2022, in front of you, with conditions, just recommending, approval. We've got 31 conditions to it, that covers all aspects that he is, making application for. And, yeah, being there was no concerns with respect to the public and that. And like I say, he's been doing the business for a little over 20 years, or just 20 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council? Councilor Prestige?
Yes, this addition on the building's there already, so I don't see a big problem putting an addition onto it. If it was another brand new building, probably there might be something. But this is pretty straightforward, I think.
Councilor Cush?
I just have one question to administration. Under the recommendation, if we go do this, do you need, there's 6 points and 6 different motions, or one motion that encompasses all of the recommended action?
One motion would cover all the recommended action, or
Thank
all
you.
the conditions, sorry.
Any other questions from council? So I'd be looking for a motion to accept. Councilor Cush?
I'll make the motion that council approve development permit 15-023-2022 for number 1, the new 24-foot by 30-foot addition to existing shop. Number 2, development permit 15-009-2021 to continue the use of home occupation major, heavy and light equipment vehicle repair inspection sign. Number 3, storage compound. Number 4, as-built 5 accessory structures, 4 garden sheds varying sizes, and 1 10 by 48 shed on skids. 5, as-built surveillance suite in shop. 6, existing home occupation major greater business 5 graders and support vehicles with conditions as recommended in the development officer's report.
Okay, everybody understands that motion on the table. Well done, Councilor Cush. Call the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so I'll give you this, and then you'll get a.
What's that?
You'll get a notice of decision in the mail
Okay,
with these conditions listed.
okay.
Okay.
Take this with me, take this
Yep,
with
you
me,
can take
okay.
that with you.
All right,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. All right, we'll move on to item 8.3, Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta FRIAA grant. Turn this over to Mr. Frank.
Your worship, I believe Mr. Scott will give you a brief update on the grant that we received and the intent of where we're gonna spend the money.
Mr. Webb.
Good morning.
Oh, yes.
Good morning,
Thank you.
Worship and Council. Just recommendation is that the council accepts the FRIAA grant as information. So by some background, in August, council passed a motion directing administration to proceed with an application for Fire Smart grant funding. In January 2022, Woodlands County applied for a $60,000 Fire Smart FRIAA grant through the program. In March 2022, we were successful in the first step of the grant process. We then submitted a more detailed plan of what the FRIAA funding would be used for within the county. That was submitted on May 2nd. And on June 6th, we received an award letter from FRIAA that we were granted the $60,000 for the county to start our FRIAA project. And the FRIAA project we put forward was to conduct a wildfire mitigation plan for the county and do a wildfire hazard risk assessment for all of our hamlets, including the surrounding Whitecourt Mountain. This is the start of the process with FRIAA and FireSmart. We need this done before we can actually, next year, we can apply for up to $200,000 to possibly start doing mitigation for in our hamlets of tree removal, site cleanups, that sort of stuff. So we need this plan to move forward.
Any questions from council? Councilor Williams?
I just want to make a comment that it, I think, was a lot of work to get this and a lot of time and effort spent on this and the importance of having this done. So I just want to say thank you. It's very important. Communities need this for protection. So
Sure.
it's a lot of money.
And especially that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can you just give us a real quick overview of what you're gonna do with this grant money, like physically, what's gonna happen?
Well, this grant money is actually, we have a consultant, Palisade Consulting, who's gonna come out. They're gonna basically go out with myself, our fire teams, ag and forestry. We are gonna do a forest survey of what our heavy timber looks like, what our fuels look like, and we're gonna develop wildfire plans for our area, as well as projected where we need to go. We're gonna look at sprinkler plans around Blue Ridge, sprinkler plans around Goose Lake. Those kind of the preemptive strikes for next year. Next year we could apply for how to build a sprinkler plan around Goose Lake for Assiniboine, stuff like that. So basically this is gonna give us the starting point. It's really, what it's gonna do is gonna take a 500,000 foot view of the county and see where our residents are and what we need to do to help them be fire smart. And there is an education piece in this as well, so we will be able to get out into the communities and with the fire teams and that, and educate our residents and help them out with fire smart information and stuff like that too.
Sure. Thanks. Question, Councilor Colkin?
Yeah, through the chair to Scott. You said that down the road, we're looking at possibly getting $200,000 then to start the mitigation process. Should council be, once you get this study done, should council be looking at maybe supplementing that at some point in our budgeting process?
I think future budgeting process, yes. We don't know what we don't know right now, so we don't know what that looks like. This year, this is the planning, very first part is the planning part, and the max was $60,000. If we actually had this done, say last year, we could have applied for up to $200,000, and they may say, well, your project is only worth $80,000, we're only gonna give you 80. So it's kinda, you can go for this, but you may only get this. I know the town of Whitecourt, Brian Wynn has done a lot of fire smarting within the town through the FRIAA grants, and you just pick projects that you can achieve every year.
Thank you.
Councilor Prestige?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the free grant as information.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. Just before we call the question, any other questions to Mr. Webb? Okay, seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. You're welcome. All right. Item 8.4, the Service Tracker Quarterly Report, March to May of 2022. Sure everybody's had a chance to look at the tracker report. Did administration want to shed any light before I turn it over to council?
Your worship, members of council, just to give you an update, we did further training yesterday as a group on the next version of Service Tracker, which will allow us to enhance some of the reporting ability, as well as when council themselves put requests in through emails or stuff, we're going to now be able to attach that to the service request, and you'll get a notification, so you'll be able to follow it along. I just have to remember to do it all the time.
Any questions for administration on this? Councillor Wilhelm?
I had a comment. So I've been, apologize, putting some requests in for residents, and some of our older residents either don't have emails or don't want to give their email out. And it's a requirement in the service tracker to have an email in there. But I mean, we can also contact them by phone. So I wonder if we should look within the service tracker, removing the email requirement, just because that might actually be preventing some people from putting requests in. I've just been putting my own email in for those people that don't want or don't have an email. So we might want to change the requirement of an email.
As long as the purpose of it, and I understand the question is, the purpose of it is to be able to validate that the individual, so that we can respond to them and indicate that their request is being looked at. But having said that, if a phone number does the same thing, we're okay with that, so we'll look into that to see if it's one or the other.
That works for you?
Absolutely.
Okay. You had a question, Councillor Williams?
It was just a comment. I really appreciate this. Every time we get a version of this, it seems like it's getting better and better. And this really helps out to identify some of these are out of our control. When we used to get it, it was more just a big number that you didn't really know what all the details were. So this is getting better and better. So thank you for that.
Councillor Colkin?
Just a comment as well. When I was looking through this, it was very interesting to me to see that where the greater population is and more infrastructure is, the more time we're going to be working out there, because there's obviously more things that are causing problems. And it's interesting to see that when you go from into the our divisions in Fort Assiniboine and Goose Lake, because there is the infrastructure is not changing as much. We don't seem to have as many issues there. So, it's really interesting, and it'll be good for us as well when we start looking at our infrastructure management. So, thank you very much for that, guys.
And I had a question then. Do call-in requests, do they funnel into this tracker?
For the most, your worship, members of council, for the most part, is some individuals will call in and say, I just want you to let you know, right? I don't need to track it. I don't need the information. We thank them very much. But if they, we take the time and we do try to put them in there so that we track it too as well. But there are some people that say, no, don't need to know.
Okay, and then just a follow-up question. I know in speaking with council formally and informally about this tracking tool, there had been conversation about, rather than it coming out quarterly, perhaps monthly, and some of the information within those categories having a little bit more definition as well. Can we expect to continue with that process moving forward?
Yeah, I believe the policy says right now quarterly under the service tracker request policy, and we would have to amend that, which again, you just wouldn't get as big as statistics, right? Which is not a big deal. And then the other enhancement that we saw yesterday is that when you're closing off the comments now, if you have 120 in 3 months, so roughly 40 a month, you may have 40 different comments that you'd scroll through. But I mean, again, the information is there. So
okay, well that's, as I say, some of that conversation was more informal than formal. But, okay, if there's no other questions or comments, I'd ask for a motion to accept. Councillor Coulter.
I'll make a motion to accept the service tractor report as information.
Motion on the floor, call the question, all in favor? And that's carried.
Over. Turn that air conditioner on.
You get
I'll
it,
do it.
Shell, Bruce?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8.5, fuel surcharges. And is this you, Andre? I turn the floor over to Andre.
Your worship, members of council, as everyone's aware over the last number of months, fuel prices have increased dramatically. The county's fuel prices have doubled in the last number of months, and that's indicative of what the industry is going through also. Administration's been working on fuel surcharges, an RFD for council, and municipalities are using a number of different means of identifying how fuel surcharges would be paid. And then last week we received documents from the Alberta Road Builders Association identifying or suggesting numbers for fuel surcharges. We've looked at those numbers, that they are relatively reasonable compared to what some municipalities are using. I do want to identify one typo in the RFD on the third paragraph. I wrote down that truck engine horsepower typically ranges between 450 and 550 horsepower. That should be 350 to 550. Given that administration is proposing that council approve the Alberta Road Builders Association fuel surcharges, and that the fuel surcharges used for gravel trucks be a combination or an average of the 301 to 450 horsepower and the 451 horsepower to 600 horsepower, that average being $34.12 per hour. It's a little on the high side, but we are noticing that gravel trucks are becoming a little busier, so this may help us to ensure we get equipment when required. We're estimating the impact will be roughly 30,000 this year. However, we feel we can absorb that within the amended budget a couple of meetings ago, where we identified fuel charges would run roughly $400,000 more in 2022.
Councilor Prestige.
Through the chair to Andre. Does this apply to the heavy equipment too, or just the trucks?
No, it would apply to the heavy equipment.
Okay.
And heavy equipment would be as per the road builders' numbers based on the horsepower, and the gravel trucks would be the average of the two.
We have a couple more questions. I'll go to Councilor Williams first and then Councilor Cush.
We pay according to the Alberta Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association currently, correct?
We pay, through the chair, Councilor Williams, we pay the previous year's rate, so less 15%, so 85% of the 2021 rate.
Okay, that's why my question was gonna be, if this is what they're recommending, we pay according to it anyways, but I see now that it's last year's and this wasn't on, so that answers my question.
Councilor Cush.
Just my question, Andre, you mentioned that, it's still kind of under what some of our other municipal partner or like areas are doing. I'm just wondering if you have any kind of numbers or whatever show or an idea to give us what some of the other municipalities are doing in this.
Through the chair, Councilor Cush, a lot of municipalities pay per ton per kilometer, and so the calculations are a little difficult to compare to this, but we're in the ballpark of what others are paying. Some municipalities are paying the 2022 rates.
That's the third thing.
And have that calculation for the fuel surcharge also, so.
Okay, Councillor Colkin.
Through the chair to Andre, yeah. This just applies through, right now, to the day rate stuff that's going on currently within the county. I had some calls on, contract work that probably is going to happen. I would suggest some of this is gonna happen in the future. So my question would be, when the next round of bids come in or tenders go out, will the increase, because this fuel price isn't gonna go away, will that increased fuel price be included in the rate then, so that you don't have to deal with that calculation?
Through the church, Councilor Colkin, if we put something out for bid, it's up to the bidders to include that in their pricing.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions from council, comments? I just, for anybody that might be watching the meeting, I just want to come back to a comment that Andre had made about a previous council meeting where the council adopted an increase in fuel costs. So we were being proactive at the time, and this is just another step in that process. Councillor Kush.
I'll make a motion the council approve the use of the Alberta Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association notice of addendum to implement a fuel surcharge for hourly contracted equipment and trucks.
Motion on the table. Call the question. All in favor? And that's carried.
Your worship. Just so that this will remain in effect until such time as you rescind that motion, whatever in the future.
Okay. Rescind or amend.
Or amend, yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on then to item 8.6, road allowance, legal comments.
Your worship, members of council, at the May 11th council meeting, there was a request to develop or to utilize a road allowance up around the Fort Assiniboine area. The landowner wished to clear roughly 30 acres of land. Council requested that a legal opinion be obtained on the use of the road allowance without the development of that road allowance to county standards. We have identified what the comments from the legal people were, that insurance be $5 million, that there's a license for that, ensure there's, or that making sure the activity being done is not inherently dangerous, and that the condition of the road allowance is not left in a dangerous situation. With these in place, that should mitigate the liability to the county, and should council proceed with allowing the road to the use of the road allowance without construction of a roadway, the administration would be recommending that in addition to that, that 800 meters be surveyed at the person or whoever's wishing to clear that. All the trees harvested within the road allowance are county property, with the applicant selling the logs with the funds being forwarded to the county, that the applicant be required to obtain all environmental permits prior to the work, and if required, a new culvert is to be installed. Recommendation is that council accepts the road allowance legal comments as information.
Questions from council? I have one question then, just I guess to our CEO, Frank. If we pass a motion according to the recommended action, does that then give administration, vis-a-vis Andre, to go through and work through these comments that have come back with legal and have the applicant go ahead and clear them right away?
my understanding is he's going to apply for a road allowance lease, right? Yeah, so then it comes back to council for approval.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is just the, instead of, allowing him to clear, he has to go through the process of the road allowance so that, lease, so that then council could make that final decision in regards to it.
And these conditions then would be similar to a development permit. These conditions would be embedded into that road allowance clearing application?
Yeah, it would be more to the license that he would obtain, that if any clearing has to be done in accordance, whatever the conditions are, yeah.
Okay. Councilor Prestige?
With that, I'll make a motion that council accept road allowance legal comments as information.
Okay. Question on the floor, call the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, Andre. Yes?
Your worship, in order to proceed, this may be the same thing that CAO Frank mentioned. We will have to bring, so there was an application for the May 11th to develop
Was there
that
one?
road allowance. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So council will have to approve
Deal with that application.
We'll come back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on then to item 8.7, Stratton Avenue survey results. Looks like the survey was conducted by telephone, is that right?
Your worship, it was a combination of telephone and mail out.
Okay, and we've got the results there. So the recommendation is to accept this as information, and what I see is the majority, I guess it's not a majority, but the vote that had the highest total was to leave the speed limit at 60. So if we accept this as information, then we're gonna go ahead and just leave it at 60?
That is correct.
Any other questions from council? Okay, call the
I'll move that council accepts the Stratton Ave survey's information.
Okay, motion on the floor, call the question, all in favor? Thank you. All right, 8.8, the ad hoc committee for the 2023 Fort Assiniboine Bicentennial. You gonna speak to this?
Yeah, your worship, members of council, we got an email from Helen Klein regarding the Fort Assiniboine Friendship Club to forming a committee for the Bicentennial. And they suggested that the local councillor be invited to attend, and they would like some of Woodlands County staff members to be on their planning committee, so that part of helping them with some of the administrative stuff, applying for grants, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we kind of did that in 2017 when the Athabasca River Voyager Canoe Brigade came through.
Any questions from council? Councilor Koken?
Yeah, just as a comment, we did have a conversation at the economic development table about that. So Bert's very aware, and Bert Woods is very aware, and I think those wheels have already been starting to turn. So this is just a good way to take the next step, and I think possibly it would be, I would suggest that we do talk with Bert, because he understands some of that a lot better than we would at this table, to make sure that a committee like this is struck, and that we have a coordinated effort to do a real good job of hosting an event there.
Question, Councilor Williams?
I was just gonna make a motion that council direct administration to support the Fort Assiniboine Friendship Club and the creation of the 2023 Port Assiniboine Bicentennial Committee.
Motion on the table, all in favor? And that's carried. Thanks then. So we're on to correspondence and information items. Anybody see anything there that they wanted to speak to? Administration, did you have any comments about the correspondence? Could I get a motion to accept, please? Councillor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the correspondence and information items as circulated.
Motion on the table, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We'll move into council reports and questions. So I'll start on this side with Councillor Lujan.
All right, yeah, but a few things going on lately. Community Futures, we had our AGM and meeting. We had the audit review or report from at the AGM, and our Community Futures group for Yellowhead East is the auditor was very surprised at how, or not very surprised, but very complimentary at how strong a financial situation Community Futures is in, and a rarity for that type of group. So we just wanted to give props to that, and I wanted to call them out for how well they're being run and how much money is available for our community for building small business in the area. And I also really enjoyed being part of that group. They're pushing some or developing some very great ideas on how to provide additional services beyond just loans to small businesses in the community. So I want to give them a shout out. I also got to go judge the Lemonade Day stands with Councillor Prestige and Councillor Williams. We handed out the 2 awards to the 2 stands that were there. I'll pull them up here so we can say their names. We gave the best lemonade stand to Lemon and Lime, which was Olivia Chan and Rosalie, I don't have her last name, Barchier. And we gave Entrepreneur of the Year award to Freedom Lemonade stand that had Passion, Jebediah, Isla, and Sawyer Forbes at it. So those kids were very happy to win their awards, and we had a good time doing that. And then lastly, got to go quickly and didn't get to see all of it, but appreciated having UCP leadership candidate Travis Taves come to town on Monday and give a talk to the community. And from what I did get to see, he seems like a strong candidate. He's not a career politician. He's a financial guy, good with numbers. So it was interesting to hear him talk and get to meet him for the limited amount of time that we were there. But just wanted to say that as well. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Any questions for Councillor Willow? We'll move on to Councillor Polka.
Yeah, thank you. I've had a very fulfilling and busy period since the last meeting. On June 9th, I had a ASB Zoom meeting in the morning, and that was, went through a long debate on selecting Farm Family Award person for this year. I then attended the Goose Lake Senior Celebration at Goose Lake Hall. There were about 25 seniors there, and we really enjoyed the day. It was nice to sit down and have conversation with folks that I hadn't seen for a long time, and they were pretty happy to be out there. And then on the 10th, I went to the Topland Hall Seniors thing, and the RCMP from Barhead were there, and they gave a presentation much similar to the one that you guys had on fraud and online scams, and let us know just how sophisticated the scammers have become. With some encouragement from Heather and Brenda, I participated in the chair yoga that they had put on for the seniors, and it was a lot of fun, and a lot of fun there. And I think that whoever, Heather and the folks in her staff that did the facility for this event did a phenomenal job, and a lot of the seniors really appreciated it. So I really recommend that we continue to support this event in the future. Then June 15th to 18th, we hosted a major SiteLink conference, and it's the first ever in Canada. And until I went through that, I had no idea of how incredibly important that was for Alberta. Not just that we as Woodlands County had an ETO that had enough of a vision to understand just how incredibly important this is. This event hosts site selectors from all over the world. We had 7 out of 275 worldwide visit here, which is pretty remarkable. These individuals are deeply connected in the world of corporate and private investment. They come from many different walks of life, varied professions and backgrounds. They are very in tune with the geopolitical and the pulse of the world's economic drivers. The vision they cumulatively possess spans all aspects of economic development in energy, aerospace, defense, agriculture, medicine, and the list goes on. They collect data that allows them to help companies position their businesses well into the future. With this wealth of information and business expertise, they go to places that have all the potential to be site of a long-term successful business venture. I had the opportunity to get to know these folks on a personal level and develop a relationship with them. I began to understand immediately that this was for them the first and most important step. As we began to share our vision as municipal leaders and moved into the more formal discussions, it became clear that the relationships we had begun to build allowed us to be very open and honest about how we felt about economic development and how it can happen in our region and what was expected of us to be a place where development could happen. All of these individuals have helped establish long-term, modern, high-tech facilities, very diverse, with high degree of success in the long term. And a really relative degree of stability because it is very much connected to everyday life. It became really clear early on that they're site eliminators, not site selectors. And that was kind of the turning point where I began to understand that we got a lot of work to do. And as a municipality, it's not going to be a short game. It's going to take us a while. This means that we got to have sites ready that they can find clients that will locate here. We're happy to hear that this county and region has incredible potential because what Bert did was a bit unique, was that he, at the EDA conference, I believe, handed out what he was attempting to do to all the EDOs, which are economic development practitioners in Alberta. And I don't know for sure how many of them showed up, but it was, what was it? 18, who the minute they seen that this was happening, they came to this conference because they understood the importance of it. We learned, especially from the northern region, Mackenzie County, the work that's been put in to shift the goods transportation flow to the north and how far they are along that journey already to get goods to flow to Anchorage, Alaska, and some of the ports up there, because over the years of what that supply chain could do, they save, 3.5 or 4 days travel in container ships to the Asian markets, which are going to be one of our biggest markets in the future. So a lot of that work that's being done up there, none of us know about. But because of this conference now, we can start to align our visions and our economic development to go in that direction. So it's really interesting when you get immersed in some of this stuff, how it changes the way you view the job that you have and the job that we have as a council. What is really important to understand as well is that there were some very unique things that happened during the session. One was we have to really hand out a big thank you to Arias at Eagle River there for hosting and the hospitality that was there, and sharing the that evening that they shared their cultural First Nations, Canadian First Nations cultural dance and drum session, which these site selectors absolutely loved. The other thing that was in my mind was really was a key was Mark from ANC, the participation that he had and the influence or the what the site selectors understood, that we had a long-term company that shares many of the same values that these fellows do, and they have quite a bit of land that's available for development. So these guys keyed in on that right away. So Mark's contribution to this site link was incredibly good. And then I guess to end this report is that to get this to happen, Bert put in a tremendous amount of energy, and I should say thank you to Bruce as well, because that he constantly had to support, was always behind him. So it was the councillor support within the work that they did together that pushed this into reality. So thanks a lot for that, Bruce, because this is a great thing. I've already received two emails from these guys that want to start moving moving the needle and having a look at what's possible. So we have something that we can sink our teeth in as far as economic development and diversity in this region. So thank you, Bert, for doing that, but it was a really good job, and I hope that we all can participate in these things to get a better understanding in the future as to how we can be better at our municipal jobs.
That's it. Any questions for Councillor Copeland? Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, those guys kind of covered some of them up with the Lemonade Day judging of the stamps. We did the taste testing before that. Went really good. I heard some numbers what those kids made, and I think they did fairly well. So they did good. When we were there, there was people buying it forward, and nobody would accept the free lemonade that was bought for them. So it was pretty good. And then the Ag Service Board meeting for Farm Family, that I thought was going to be maybe a 5-minute phone call or conference call. It ended up being, I think, an hour and a bit conversation trying to figure out who would be the best suited, because there were so many good candidates. So that I thought was really good. It's nice to have that problem versus trying to find people to give an award to. So I was pretty encouraged by that. I had a BARC meeting as well. Lots of talk on camera registries. Nikita actually answered some questions there about the one in around Whitecourt. We brought that up, maybe something for Barhead area to look at as well, of people registering cameras and what kind of cameras and stuff to get. So that was a pretty good conversation. Was a lot of it. Ag Society meeting, I was over at that. Lots of work going into the hoedown. I think it's going to be really good. I keep saying this because I keep having meetings there, but yeah, it's going to be quite good. So hopefully lots show up to that. There's camping back this year, and you can pre-register, which is nice for any councillors that want to come. And then we had the special council meeting on Monday. I thought was a pretty good meeting. Lots come out of that, so it was good. Pretty good couple weeks.
Thanks, Councillor Williams. Any questions for Councillor Williams? Yes, Councillor Wilhelm.
When's the hoedown again?
Third weekend in August.
So that's
like
the 20th?
Yeah.
I think I've asked you this multiple times. I'm gonna put it in my calendar.
I'll send you a reminder.
Okay.
No, it's pretty good. The hoedown's definitely worth coming. The fireworks on Friday, we get a pretty good deal out there. It's used to be a local guy. I have lots of family around there, gives the fireworks pretty well at cost, and tries out some new stuff there usually. I think last year he had a 12-inch firework that he had to set up in a barrel. It was quite a thing that went up, so yeah, it's good.
You got that in your calendar now?
I do, yeah. Finally.
I'll talk to you.
Third time.
Yeah, she's the only one.
Any other questions for Councillor Williams? Councillor Prestige?
Yeah, start with Bert Roach, our Economic Development Officer, and myself went to Calgary to the Global Energy Show. How to explain that? It used to be the Global Oil and Gas Conference. Now it's the Energy Conference. It was represented by solar, wind, hydrogen, nuclear, did I say hydrogen? Okay. And very good speakers. We had a group from the Ukraine. We had the ambassador for Ukraine for Canada. It was a session there. We had the ex-governor of Texas, Rick Perry, who also was the Secretary of Energy. And it was just well represented. There was people from all over the world there. It's changed from a show to a conference. Before there was 3 halls of displays, and the outside was all full of equipment. Now there was 1 hall with displays and just a handful of people outside. So it's turned into a conference, which I like much better. Very educational. It was just, Bert is trying to get the recorded version of it. So we'll be able to send that out to any of the councillors that want to. You can pick one topic and watch it. So we'll see if we can do that. Then I was with at the cycling conference too. I think Peter covered it pretty much. The only thing I'm gonna say is it was nice to have him here to see what we have to offer. But listening to them, it was nice to see what they have to offer for us and how we have to change how we do things to make it so they are interested in our area and our region. So I think it was a great conference, and hats off to Bert again for the job he did. Not only Bert, I'll say it again, Eagle River Casino did a great job. The response we had from all the other regional communities that contributed, like Bicentennial County, Greenview County, they were all there. And so that was incredible. Then yesterday we had our landfill meeting. At the landfill, they finally got the clay capping done on the whole site. So that's a big job done. Now they're gonna start taking out the wastewater, getting rid of it. And then we had our Eagle Tower Victim Services meeting last night. Everything's going good on there. The last 3 meetings has been reviewing all their policies and bylaws, so that's coming to an end. But that's about it.
Any questions for Councillor Prestige? So I just had a kind of a follow-up to the Eagle Tower Victim Services. They host the Anthony Gordon Memorial Golf Tournament. Is that going to come by council so we can have a look at possibly getting involved in that?
I don't know if it does, but I can check with you.
Okay. Typically, in the past, there was always a notification invitation
Yeah.
for council to have
Yes,
representation.
it's in August.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Turn it over to Councillor Cush.
Again, I guess I'll kind of mimic what a lot of people said here, but the ASB Family Farm Conference we were at, Zoom meeting we had, it was incredible, just the list of families that we had in the area that, met all the requirements for, for the nominations that got put in. And it like Councillor Williams said there, went from being what should have been, what we thought was going to be a quick meeting to a long, conversation on each of the families that were put in there, and how incredible they've done for the areas, and they're just everything that they kind of put forward. So it was actually a longer meeting than was anticipating, but it was a really good meeting to showcase what we have in the egg sector out here. I had a YRL trustee meeting here beginning of the week. That was, again, most of that's all basically policy and budgets and stuff for Yellowhead Regional Library, which kind of encompasses all of the libraries in the area. We had a Whitecourt Library Board. They were, again, just kind of talking about where they're at, where things are kind of looking for programs and stuff throughout the summer. That was our last one before the summer break, so they're broke for till September now, I believe. But again, they got lots of really good programs and reading and everything coming up here through the summer, so it'd be good for people to take advantage of. We had the org meeting here on Monday also, Monday evening, and then I had a West End Bus Committee meeting last week. Anybody doesn't know what the West End Bus is, it's a great program. They do adventure trips and stuff for the seniors. They go like day trips to casinos or museums or other programs and shows that come up. They also offer any type of transportation needs and stuff for medical assists and whatnot for people within Woodlands County that can I guess need those services. They do have a lot of programs and stuff coming out. We do have, I believe they put it in our Woodlands Express, the list of what they have coming up every month. So I would definitely get people, anybody interested in those programs, to take a look. And they seem to be very well received, and they're usually sold out. There is one thing came out of that. I just want to ask administration if I could. The policies that we currently have through the West End Bus, when there's changes, they have to come back to all of the respective councils. They are looking to see if they can edit that, so if there's going to be changes, and again, something you can look forward and bring to another meeting, but changes that are going to be fiscally affecting the municipalities that are partnered in this, that those ones will come back to councils, and the rest of the operational ones they can just handle in-house. That was one of the conversations that we had currently from the way they're running things, so I'm not sure if that'd be something for Heather to reach out on, or. But.
Your worship, through to Councillor Cush, we have an agreement that spells out the financial commitment, and I don't recall them being that we approved their policies, but
that was part of the meeting. They have in their policies that there's changes that they have to go to all the partners to make sure that they're okay with. But we just, as the board felt that, fiscally, yes, operationally, any of the stuff that comes through should be able to just hold it out. So if we could get, I'm assuming that'd be Heather would probably look into that, but.
yeah, the West End busing is community services. Yeah.
Maybe that's all I have.
Thanks, Councillor Cush. Any questions for Councillor Cush? All right. Councillor Williams.
Not so much a question, but I was just gonna have a comment. I know that you were talking about the Yellowhead Regional Library, I think, but Blue Ridge and Fort Assiniboine libraries both have some summer stuff kind of coming up and little things going on too. So if anyone doesn't know about that or whatever, the kids really enjoy those. So I was just gonna add that in. We didn't have a meeting about it recently, but they have lots on their calendars.
How can people, is there a website they can go to and have a look at things?
My kids always get it through the school. They always have calendar and stuff, but I believe you can go on their websites and.
I believe they have a Facebook page also, and they usually have, for people in the community, they usually have a calendar of event and posters and stuff put up too for upcoming events.
The Ford has that sign too, and it works. They put lots on there. So, yeah.
Information sign.
Yeah, it's actually good lately.
Any other questions for Councillor Cush? Okay, we'll accept that. And Myself, I was on vacation for much of the time between the two meetings. Did catch the tail end of the site link, was invited to the supper to get a chance to meet with some of those selectors, and that was very valuable. I know Peter said that he's already received email communication with a couple, and I've connected with two of them on LinkedIn as well, and they spoke very highly of the region, they spoke highly of Bert, and they spoke highly of the conference, so kudos to everybody. And like the rest of you have participated in Monday's meeting and feel that organizational review conversation is going to bear fruit down the road. That's it for me, so it's pretty brief. Any questions for me? All right, if I could get a motion to accept the council reports and questions, Councilor Cush.
I'll move the council reports and questions to information.
Okay, so motion on the table, all in favor? And that's carried, thanks. So we'll turn it over to CAO Frank for his report.
Your worship, members of council, just yesterday, the several staff members had training on the asset management program, and hats off to Kara and the infrastructure team. They're busy inputting some of the data and criteria that's required to do that, and we anticipate in the fall that we'll provide council with the full update of some of the progress that we've made and where we're at with that. It's interesting. It's a very complex and time-consuming to get that information in there, and then using it and analyzing it. So I look forward to us eventually being able to apply it. And Munisite, who is the consultant on the other end that is tying it in with our GIS, is working very closely with Kara to ensure that the information, when we pull up our GIS map, that it will be available, and you can see some of the ratings and how we determined that evaluation. So in the fall, look forward to that presentation. The last week finalized the draft agreement for the Mayor Thorpe Recreation Agreement. I've sent it off to the town to consider it. I see the town CAO has sent back a couple minor comments, so it'll be here for the July 20th council meeting for council consideration. We're proceeding with the interviews this week for the executive assistant's position, as well as the stay of proceedings is next Monday. I will be on holidays as previously indicated to council. However, I will be attending that one at 2 o'clock. And then depending on how fast the decision is, I'll send out an email letting council be aware of that. As well as are you gonna hand those out for me? I've sent or provided with a copy of the ICF draft agreement that we prepared for the courts, as well as the town has received that. No response, and it's part of our submission on the ICF. We've also sent you an electronic version of that just now, so you can read it at your reading pleasure. And it adheres to the arbitrator's decision and our interpretation of the decision. Attended some of the site link gatherings, and that's
Just, could you clarify, I missed what you said, there was a document that was sent to the town and it came back with comments?
so no, the ICF agreement has been sent to the courts as part of our stay application, as well as the town has also sent it.
Okay, so a couple questions.
Oh, the rec agreement, sorry, maybe that's what you're,
Yeah.
thank you. The town of Mayorthorpe recreation agreement
Okay, thanks.
that there's a motion years ago that council held it pending the decision of the arbitration with the town.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Frank? Councillor Koken?
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Frank and Andre. Yeah, I forwarded the email to the Reeve and I had gotten an email with some very disparaging remarks about the asset management and some of the things that are going on, and you need to be aware that, and I hope this is being watched by the individual, that I completely support what you guys are doing there because it is necessary, and I appreciate the work that you're putting in. So now that that's out there in public, we'll see how that works out. Thank you.
Any other questions for CEO Frank? If I get a motion to accept his report as information? Councillor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the CAO report as information.
Motion on the floor, all in favor? And that's carried, thanks. Okay, before we break, or before we go into committee of whole, I'd just like to take a break. What do we want, 10 minutes, is that there?
I just want, could we go into committee of the whole and then just take a break while they're.
Sure, we can do it that way. Yeah. Okay, so then we'll need a motion to go into committee of
I'll
whole.
make the motion to go into committee of the whole under FOID 24.
Sorry,
Oh, we didn't put it in.
that was my error.
It would be
1724.
legal advice 19.
19.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody understands the motion on the floor, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we'll okay, so resume our public meeting. I'm looking for a motion to accept the information as discussed in the in-camera session as information.
I'll make the motion that we accept the airport briefing update as information.
Motion on the floor, all in favor? And that's carried. And I believe, go ahead, Councilor
Make the
Cook.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor? Not that we need to vote, and that's accepted.
Eh?
Thanks.
I should have bet.
You didn't even look over.